the eye so complex that it requires a god to produce it? Daniel King thinks so, but, yeah. Daniel King is a moron, and this video, more than any other that we've seen so far, is going to prove it. There isn't really much more I can say, so let's get going. I'm going to be really honest. I'm going to apologize to everybody right up front for this video. The only reason you're seeing it at all is because it's part of a series, but this is about as low-hanging as fruit ever gets. It is tremendously low effort on Daniel King's part, and that's kind of saying something. This guy is a complete idiot after all. So, can he prove that you need his imaginary friend to get to the eye? No. No, he can't. Not even close. And he doesn't even try.
The human eye proves God is real.
Nope, not even close. Now, we'll let him get to his point in a second, right after he struts around like a peacock. Maybe that would make him a Peking? I don't know, you tell me. This isn't going to go anywhere, though, for the same reason that none of his other videos ever go anywhere. Because he's just jumping from, here's a thing I don't understand, to, God did it. And that doesn't work. But go ahead, Daniel. Go prance around like an idiot. That's really all you're good for.
The eye is amazingly complex with many interworking parts.
Indeed it is, but that doesn't prove that God had anything at all to do with it. Now, I'm going to let him do his spiel because ultimately it isn't going to matter, but this has been soundly debunked many times before. And I don't think that matters to him any more than it matters to any of the other apologists who try this. Therefore, go ahead, knock yourself out, Daniel. We'll just prove you wrong, as always.
There are 3 layers of tissue in the eye. The outer layer is called the sclera. This layer gives the eyeball its white color.
Guess he doesn't know how to do another take, right? I mean, I've pointed this out several times in the past, but he tends to stumble over words, and that's why you do a take 2. You know, you fix it all in post. However, it doesn't look like he cares that much. Say stupid things, Danny boy. It seems to be all you're good at.
The middle layer is the choroid. It contains blood vessels that supply oxygen to the retina. The retina is the innermost layer. In the front of the eye is the cornea.
Is the what? I mean, I'm really not trying to make fun of this guy. I mean, he does enough of that on his own, but this happens in almost every single video. So let's let him get past all the really stupid, simplistic stuff and hope that he's actually going to say something of substance in the end. But I don't think I'd be holding my breath for that, would you?
A transparent structure that helps to focus incoming light. The iris is a colored ring-shaped membrane found behind the cornea. In the middle of the iris is a circular opening called the pupil that expands and contracts depending on how much light enters the eye.
And that's been your kindergarten level explanation of what the eye is. That has taken up, get this, a full third of his video. This is why this stuff is never at all impressive. Well, here's all this really basic stuff because I'm talking to really dumb people. Therefore, God. Good night, everyone. Tip your waiter. This just doesn't mean anything, and it's the meaning that is entirely missing from the presentation of most apologists. You don't get to just leap to an entirely empty assertion just because you really like the idea. Let's see if he can get anywhere worthwhile. Don't get your hopes up.
A clear fluid fills the area between the cornea and the iris. Behind the pupil is a clear structure called the crystalline lens. This lens is surrounded by small muscles that hold it in place and that also assist in helping us see.
I'm still waiting for a point where God demonstrably enters the picture. Keep in mind, this is one of his shortest videos, clocking in at a mere 3 minutes and 14 seconds, and he's already wasted 1:24 at this point, explaining something that you could get off Wikipedia. Now, I kind of get why he's doing it. He's trying to impress his intended audience with, wow, this is just so complex. There can't be any other explanation except God. Except that doesn't mean anything. It's why people like Daniel end up looking like such imbeciles. I mean, but they really look like it too. You can't just say, well, I don't get it, therefore, and fill in your preferred explanation. Yet that's all that he's going to do. But wouldn't it be really, really cool? Not really. It's why all of these Proof God is Real videos just make him look really dumb. Because proving something means more than just making baseless assumptions. You actually have to demonstrate how you got from point A to point B without just making it all up. And sadly, that's all that he's doing.
To see objects far away, the muscles relax, pulling on the lens and flattening it. To see objects close at hand, the muscles contract, causing the lens to thicken. Inside the eyeball is found a jelly-like tissue. After light travels through the lens, the light travels through this tissue before hitting the retina.
Seriously, is this all he's going to do? He hasn't even brought up God's part in any of this yet, and he's down to 1.5 minutes. Now, granted, he's not alone in this. Most apologists who ever bring up the eye do it as fast as they can because it's very, very, very simple for critics to tear apart. It just takes time, and this is a gish gallop topic if we've ever seen one. It's why they do it. Here's all this stuff that we already believe on faith, so just accept that it's true and don't ask any questions. This is why it's so stupid, because when you talk to dumb people, as he's doing here, that's his audience after all, you don't have to really explain why, you just get to say, well, God done it, and move on. But we're not going to let him get away with that, are we? Anyway, I'm going to fast forward until he gets to something relevant. Right now, he's just reading from Wikipedia.
Embedded in the retina are millions of light sensitive cells that are divided into rods and cones. The rods help us see in low light conditions. The cones help us see colors in fine detail. When light hits the rods and cones, the light is converted into an electrical impulse that's carried to the brain through the optic nerve. The brain translates the electric impulse into an image. This cleverly designed and complex process gives us sight. The eye is far more sophisticated than a camera. Yet no one thinks that a camera came into existence by chance.
Jeez, about time he got to something worthwhile. Well, not worthwhile, but you know what I mean. But here's the thing that Danny Boy is ignoring. Cameras were designed to work like eyes. Like so many other things that we've made, we've looked at the natural world, thought, hey, that's pretty handy, and tried to replicate it artificially. Because here's the thing, cameras don't evolve. Biological life forms do. We can demonstrate that eyes evolved. In fact, they've done so independently several times. Science estimates that eyes have evolved entirely independently of each other between 40 and 65 times. And each time that it's done it slightly different. Eyes vary dramatically across the biological spectrum. Why should we be surprised that King doesn't understand any of that?
But not only does the evolutionary narrative insist that eyes are the result of chance, it insists further that the staggering complex organ randomly developed not just in one species, but in many species at the same time.
Based on, evidence. We'll get to that in a second, though, because King really isn't giving us all that much to work with here. He doesn't understand evolution, and Clearly, he doesn't want to. He thinks it's all chance and random bullcrap, which it isn't at all. So let's let him ramble on for a while, and then we'll go do something different.
The odds of this happening are astronomical. The fact that I can see anything at all makes me say, yes, God is there.
So I guess that's it. Didn't see that one coming. I guess the rest of it is just advertising, and of course, we're just going to ignore that part as always. Honestly, I had almost decided to just skip this video entirely because he didn't really say anything of value. I mean, not like he ever really does. That's why there's such a large gap between video 10 and here, because I didn't know that I even wanted to do this at all. He was just reading out of Wikipedia or something similar. Then he just tacked God on the end and called it a day. This is one of the laziest videos I've ever seen from him, or really from anyone else. And that's kind of sad when you think about it. However, that's not where I want to leave this, because I at least put in some effort, even when he doesn't. So I'm going to add a video on the end of Richard Dawkins explaining the actual evolution of the eye in terms that even a dipshit like Daniel King could understand, or at least he ought to be able to, even though this is Daniel King we're talking about. I'm usually shocked that he can string a sentence together in any coherent fashion, so, whatever. So let's get to that, but before we do, I just wanted to say thank you for sticking with this video until the end. Hopefully in his next video, he'll say something remotely worthwhile. Not that he ever really does. It's like he saw the eye on some creationist website and he just threw it on the list without having the slightest idea what he was going to do with it. Because that's really common, isn't it? So anyway, thanks once again, and here's Richard Dawkins to prove Daniel King is wrong. What a surprise.
Richard, the eye is such a complex structure. I can understand why some people find it hard to believe it evolved out of nothing. Even Darwin commented on its complexity, didn't he?
Yes, Darwin said that it was impossible to imagine that it could have evolved by gradual degrees. But reason tells me that if there were a series of gradual improvements, then it would be easy for it to have evolved by natural selection. And you find all over the animal kingdom eyes in various stages of what look like stages of evolution.
And the great thing about this is that we've got examples of the intermediate stages of this evolution in modern-day animals. So, what would the first step be?
In here, for example, is Euglena, which is a single-celled organism, just has a little eye spot at the head end of the cell. And that eye spot is just sensitive to light, so it can't form an image, it can't see anything. All it can tell is whether it's light or dark, so that could be the first step.
Okay.
But if you imagine that you had a sheet of cells, each of which is sensitive to light. This has been painted with a substance that glows in ultraviolet. So this is an ultraviolet light. And if we hold the ultraviolet light over, you can see it's sort of glowing.
Okay, so this demonstrates cells that are reacting to light.
Yes, that's just a flat sheet of cells, which
And you can't tell
again,
what direction
doesn't
the
tell
light
you
is
what
coming
direction.
from then.
But if you just gradually evolve a slight curve, turn it into a cup. Light that's coming from that direction hits this side of the bent sheet of the cup. Whereas if the light's coming from over here, then the other side lights up. So you can tell what direction the light's coming from, and perhaps you could tell the direction that a predator's shadow is passing over.
This means that animals with cup eyes, like these planarian worms, have a huge evolutionary advantage over animals with just a flat eye.
Then how do we progress from something that has a cup that can tell the direction of light to something that can actually form an image of what it's seeing?
Well, over evolutionary time, if you imagine that the cup gradually evolves to get deeper and deeper and deeper and close up the hole at the top, then you get a pinhole camera. Now, a pinhole camera is a pretty poor piece of work. It doesn't actually show you much of an image, but it does show you a crude image. You can actually see something. This is a pinhole camera here. In front is a little hole. There's a screen inside there.
Yeah.
Have a look.
Okay.
If I now hold this in front of the pinhole.
Okay. Wow, yeah, no, I can see the A. It's not too bad. I mean, it's blurry, obviously, and it's upside down, but yeah, I can see it.
And a perfect example of this next stage in the evolution of the eye can be seen in many aquariums.
This is the mollusk Nautilus, a relative of the extinct ammonite, with an eye on each side of its head that acts like a pinhole camera, which means that these little fellas can see blurry images.
This image might be good enough for Nautilus, but what if you wanted a bit more detail?
The solution to the problem, as anybody will tell you, is a lens. And a proper man-made lens is exactly shaped. It's a glass, refracts light.
How on earth does that come about in nature?
Well, to get a really good image, you do need a decently curved lens. But any old bit of gunge, which is transparent, will do if it's just approximately curved.
Okay.
I mean, this is just a polythene bag full of water, and it just naturally falls into a curved shape. Now, if I stick this bag of water...
Bring the bag forward a bit. There, perfect.
That's not what you might call a real lens. Think of that as just a blob of gunge in the cup eye.
But if this gunge or jelly hardened, it would form a proper lens and transmit a brighter, clearer image. And we can see an example of this back at the aquarium.
Sea snails have a blob of jelly that acts like a very simple lens, so they can focus on an object even if that image is still a bit blurry. But it does mean they can make out food and predators.
Once you've got that, then because it works a bit better than nothing at all, you've got the raw material for natural selection to go to work and
improve
over
on
generation after generation after generation, just each stage, just slight improvement in the curvature, slight improvement in the transparency, and you've got a steady ramp of improvement all the way up to a proper lens, such as you get in the vertebrate eye.
So really the eye is a brilliant example of how complex structures, and then obviously simpler ones, can evolve quickly and easily.
The eye is sort of legendarily complicated, and so if you can show that that evolved very easily and quickly over time, then all the more easy it would have been to evolve something simple.
What's even more incredible is that as the eye evolved over millions of years, wildly differing species like monkeys and mollusks seem to have developed the same solutions.
And at the top of the mollusk evolutionary ladder is the octopus eye. It's got a proper lens, it can adjust its own exposure. In fact, its eye is pretty much like our own, except that it comes from a completely different evolutionary line.
Bum